Hello, Facebook and YouTube. Today we are talking about HELOCs and how to leverage them to grow your real estate portfolio. So, if you're here live with me, let me know who you are and where you're from in comments so I can talk to you. And if you're watching a replay, just drop hashtag replay in comments so I know you were there. So, what we're talking about today is the power of home equity loans and HELOCs to grow your real estate portfolio. And this comes from my experience with growing our own portfolio, especially when we first started. It was so important to leverage the equity that we had, the existing equity that we had, to be able to supercharge the growth. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. A few questions that I will cover in today's live are number one, what are HELOCs and home equity loans? Second, can I get a HELOC on an investment property? So a lot of times people ask me, can I get a HELOC on an investment property? So that's another thing we're going to cover today. How will it impact my credit score, or will it impact my credit score? Is that the right move in this market? Like, hey, is this even the right move in given the market? And I'll go over some of the things that we've done to leverage HELOCs for our own portfolio. I think we had three properties when this clicked for me, and we went from 3 to 20 properties, and it was that turbocharged, supercharged component we needed to scale our portfolio fast. So this was at the base foundation of that supercharging. So I'm going to go over the strategy itself and how we did it. I'll be here for about 20 minutes. And so drop your questions as we are moving forward, and I'll try to answer them as we go along. All right, sounds good. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing is, why are we even talking about it? I always like to start with, why is this even a thing? Like, why is this important to me? Why is this important to you? Why are we talking about it? So what I've found, my own experience, the experience of the people we work with privately, I know that one of the biggest reasons new investors cannot scale their portfolio fast is limited capital, right? Can you relate to this? Let me know in comments if this makes sense. One of the biggest reasons new investors cannot scale their portfolio fast is limited capital. And we ran into this as well. At some point, you're going to deploy all your money and you still want to continue growing your portfolio. How do you do that? And in our case, we really didn't want to go with private lenders. We didn't really want to start doing joint ventures with people. We wanted to have more control over our portfolio. We wanted to really stick to the systems and processes that we like in working with the specific short-term lenders that we have. And so we didn't really want to change the strategy that way. And so we really had to figure out a way to find that additional seed money so we could do multiple deals at the same time while we were waiting for the refinance on our BRRRR projects, right? So this resolves the limited capital issue that a lot of us face when we first start. So with that, what are HELOCs and what are home equity loans, right? So there are two different things here. The home equity loan is something that a bank gives you in exchange for equity of your property, right? So if you have, say, a property that is worth 500K, but you only owe, say, 250,000 on it, right? You have 50% equity in that property. And so what a bank can do is they can let you borrow part of the remaining 50% that you haven't already borrowed in the form of a home equity loan. The home equity loan, what that does, it just gives you a lump sum of money, and you have that money, and then you have payments that you make over a specific period of time. On the other hand, HELOCs are home equity lines of credit. They are basically loans where you can draw on, so you can borrow that money and then you can pay it off, and then you can borrow it again, and then you can pay it off again over a specified period of time. Usually the HELOC rates vary over time, and the home equity loans are usually fixed. So there are pluses and minuses to both. I love HELOCs because that allows you to not have to borrow all the money unless you need it. It allows you to pay it back and then borrow it again when you need it. And it becomes like your own little bank, right? It becomes like your own little lender within your business. So that's why I love HELOCs. However, and this is another question that keeps coming up all the time, is can I do HELOCs on investment properties? And when I first got started, you guys know this already. And if you don't know, I called 90 different banks and I created a giant spreadsheet. I really wanted to understand how lending worked. And so I created and I established relationships with all the lenders that I talked with, and I've had long-term relationships with these lenders. And so as I started researching this, I found that HELOCs are very uncommon in the commercial world for investment properties. They are very common for primary residences, right? But they're not as common in investment properties. For investment properties, sometimes if you have a commercial loan, I have seen home equity loans being done, but they're very rare. The lender will probably want you to refinance, so if you want to tap into that equity. So that kind of gives you an idea of the availability depending on what asset base you own and you want to borrow from, right? um, HELOCs are amazing for primary residence. So, like, if you bought your house that you live in currently, if you bought it a while ago, chances are it has appreciated tremendously because of the growth that we have seen in the real estate market in the last few years, right? And so HELOC is an amazing idea for somebody who owns a primary residence and who has a lot of equity and who wants to tap into it to grow their real estate portfolio further. The next question that comes up a lot is, will it impact my credit score? So this is a question you want to ask your lender when you go to get your HELOC and a home equity loan, because I want you to get this understanding for yourself. So when you talk to the lender, you want to find out, is this loan in my personal name? Especially if you are going to a lender trying to get a HELOC or home equity loan on a property that's owned under an LLC. And as I said, HELOCs are very uncommon. Even home equity loans for properties owned under an LLC are not that common, but HELOCs, I haven't even seen that on properties that are owned under LLC. So if you're going to a lender to get a home equity loan on an investment property, ask them, is this loan going to be in my personal name or is it going to be under the LLC? Now, if you own the property in your personal name, the loan will be in your personal name as well. So, yes, it does impact your credit score when it goes in your personal name. However, it doesn't impact your credit score the same way that credit card debt does. So, um, the home equity loan debt is seen more favorably by lenders. When they look at your credit profile, they're going to look at it a little more favorably than if you have credit card debt. All right, so the next question is, is this the right move in this market? So I get this question all the time, and let me know, is that something you're wondering about too? Like, should I be tapping into the equity that I currently have in this market given the market condition? Like, is this a good idea right now? So in my opinion, yes. I think that your equity that you have, that you're sitting on, right, that is not worth anything unless you actually tap into it and do something with it. It's like hoarding money in a savings account, right? And I say hoardings, like I'm very conservative with money. I'm South Asian, I'm an engineer. Like, we're just inherently very conservative people when it comes to money and numbers. So I don't like to borrow money unless there is a really good reason behind it. So let me know if you can relate. I feel like I know a lot of people who are super conservative with money. We love saving money, we love stashing it away. We don't want to borrow money unless it's absolutely necessary, right? So if you're like me, I'm going to tell you that having a lot of savings, or putting Rena over on Instagram says I can relate. Yes. So if you're like me and you like stashing money away and you don't like borrowing, I'm going to tell you that having all this money in the savings account, having all this money in equity in your home, doesn't really make that equity or that money work for you, right? You always have to think about, if you want to build wealth, and if you want to retire early, and if you truly want to scale your assets, then you have to think about what you're doing with the money that you have and what you're doing with the equity that you have. And you need to figure out how to make that money work for you. And like, it's a cliche, right? People say like, oh, make your money work for you, but you really do need to figure out how to make that money work for you, because making that money work for you is how you yourself work less. Like, that is how you build wealth, and that is how you build passive income, and that is how you go towards financial freedom. You have to learn that, right? Otherwise, we'd all just be working at our jobs until we retire. So you really have to learn how to make that work for you. And so sitting on that equity in your home, that's really not building your asset base. You're pretty much just stashing that money in a savings account and keeping it there. And we all know that saving alone cannot make us wealthy. None of the people that we know that are wealthy right now are wealthy because they just saved money. Simona is saying your money is actually depreciating due to inflation. 100%. You need to leverage that money. That is the best hedge against inflation. And inflation is kicking our butts right now. And this is the best way to to find that hedge against the inflation that we are all facing. You must leverage that equity. And I cannot stress this enough. Don't sit on equity, you guys. Like, this is the best way to grow fast. This is the best way to build that asset, build wealth. And as Simona said, best hedge against inflation. So let's go over some ideas on how to use that HELOC, okay? And what I don't want you to do is take this idea and then just sit with it and wait for the HELOC to come through, because it's going to take 2-3 months for the HELOC to come through, even if you get started now, right? Because you're going to research a few banks, a bunch of banks will turn you down. Don't give up, continue on. And then you'll start the process, and then you'll get your HELOC, and it takes like 45 days to even close on things, right? So it's going to take a while, but don't stop working towards growing your portfolio in the meantime. You really need to start learning while you're getting your HELOC, while you're waiting for the funds. You need to educate yourself on exactly what you're going to do with those funds when you have them, instead of starting that process when you get the funds, right? So start the education process now. um, so a lot of people are in a program, right? They start the program and then they go and get a HELOC. And then by the time they're ready to put in their first offer, they have their HELOC in hand. So that's how kind of you want to think about this. Simona says start with the bank that you have a mortgage with. So that is a really, really good tip. Thank you for that. So what most banks want to see is they want to be in the first lien position on your property, right? So if something happens, God forbid you get foreclosed on, they will be the people who will get paid first. Every bank wants to be in first lien position. That is always their primary objective. So if you go to get a HELOC from a whole different bank, they may turn you down. There are more chances that they will turn you down, because then they will be in the second lien position, right? So if something happens, the first lien people get paid first, then it's their turn to get paid. So nobody wants to be in a second lien position. There are banks that do it, but it's the easiest if you go to your own bank first. So always go to the bank that holds your primary mortgage and ask if they will do a HELOC for you. Another option is you can go to a whole different bank, but what they might want is they might want to refinance you out of your existing mortgage and give you a HELOC. And that's okay. And that's because all the banks want to be in first lien position. Like I would want to be, if I was a bank, I would want to be in the first lien position because if something happens, I want to get paid first, right? So they may say, okay, we can give you a HELOC if you also refinance your existing mortgage with us. And that's fine. Um, all right, so some ideas. What you can do is, and this is what we've done this multiple times. All right, so this is what, let me go over what I hear people say they want to do all the time. And then I'm going to give you a shift on what I want you to do instead. And this is gold. So, what most people will do is they'll say, all right, I have, if you're lucky, you have, say, 100 grand in equity in your property that you can borrow. Say you have a HELOC that you can get for 100K. And I see a lot of people say, I'm going to take that HELOC, I'm going to take that 100K, and I'm going to buy a property for, say, 60K, and then I'll rehab it for 40K. And I always talk about buy and rehab because we specialize in the supercharged BRRRR strategy: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. We don't just follow the BRRRR the way everybody else does. We do it a little bit differently. And that's another live for a whole different day. But that's why I always think about it in terms of like, hey, you're going to acquire this property for 60K and then you're going to say renovate it for 40K, and that's how you're spending your 100K. That's not how I want you to spend that money. When you have a HELOC, you want to hold as much cash as possible and take that and leverage some of it and take it to a short-term lender. And this is by the way, this is what we specialize in, this is what we teach. But so take it to a short-term lender, take a piece of it, take it to a short-term lender, put it as seed money, and then have them fund majority of your acquisition and renovation. That's what you want to do. Take that cash and keep it. Don't use all of your cash on that first property. And the reason we do that is that there's multiple reasons for doing that. But the big reason we do that is you want cash in case you find that next deal and the next deal and the next deal. You need to keep your cash. Always keep your cash as much as you can. So what do? We've done this multiple times, by the way. And one of the times that we did it, we had a primary residence. It had appreciated a lot in value. We'd lived in it for six years. It was in an up and coming neighborhood, so the neighborhood improved. The value of the property went up. So we had that property that had appreciated. We, I think what we did was we actually rented it out and we moved to a different primary home. And then I went to a bank. I called, a whole bunch of banks and found. If I get really excited, I was gonna like topple this mic over, but took it to a bank and got. I think I got a home equity loan. They wouldn't give me a HELOC because it was a rental. Home equity loan, and then I used that money. I think my home equity loan was 120, 30K. Took it to a short-term lender and used it as seed money to do a 10-unit deal, $1 million deal. I was able to do that deal because I leveraged that asset by getting a HELOC and then leverage that, or home equity loan, and then leverage that home equity loan to do that $1 million deal. I mean, I started with, we don't come from money. Like we didn't want to do JV partnerships with people. We didn't want to go knock on the doors of private lenders. So for us to be able to do such a significantly large deal, it was a dream, right? And for a lot of us, right, like if you don't come from money, like doing $1 million deal on your own, that's a pretty big deal, especially as a new investor. And we were able to do that because we learned how to leverage the power of this loan. So when you think about leveraging your HELOC or your home equity loan, I want you to start thinking about using it as a part of a BRRRR but then also leveraging it with a short-term lender to acquire and renovate a property. And then I'm going to tell you, this is like have your cake and eat it too, and eat it too, and eat it too, like multiple times over. Because what what we did was then this wasn't just a property we bought. This was a 10-unit deal. We actually bought it, renovated it, refinanced it, pulled all our money out, and I pulled the money back out, paid off that home equity loan that I was telling you about that I used for seed money. And then we also sold that property and made that money. So that's just so many times this velocity of this money, and reusing it so many times. That's how you grow fast. That's how you uh, leverage and use the power of lending, and the power of the BRRRR strategy, and the power of really understanding finance well to grow your portfolio fast. So that's kind of an example that you can take into account as you start thinking about your HELOC. Somebody on Instagram is saying, damn. um, yeah, so it's really powerful. And the reason I wanted to go through this is, when you look at somebody as an outsider, like I tell you, we've built a $10 million portfolio in the last few years. Our students have built over $50 million worth of assets in just the last couple of years, I think 2 or 3 years. It sounds scammy, right? Like it sounds really like I'm making it up. And I want to explain to you, like, this can be done. This is not something that is like a dream or anything, but you really have to educate yourself, and you really have to understand financing, and you really have to understand how you can leverage the asset base that you currently have to be able to do this. All right, so I think I covered everything I wanted to cover today. I'm going to answer any questions that you might have now, so please drop them in the chat. While you're doing that, can you all please do me a huge favor and tell me what was most helpful today? What was most helpful? I would love to know what's your biggest takeaway. What was most helpful? Type it in comments, and then I'll do questions once I do the takeaways. Raza is here. Raza is one of our graduates. He has used this power of HELOCs, and he did his primary residence BRRRR. No, not HELOCs. He's used the power of the strategy we're talking about. And I think on your primary residence, you was it over 200K that you made on your one deal for your primary? Can you just type in comments if you did? I remember vaguely 200 or maybe a little over. So yeah, tell me your biggest takeaway, and then also drop any questions. Yes, Raza says yes, over 200K. He made over 200K on his primary residence BRRRR. This is what we teach you guys. Like, this is not a joke. This can be done. And he's saying, and I just did HELOC on 2 properties. There you go. That's Raza. He's one of our grads. And I feel very fortunate to be working with amazing people like this. And just, he happened to be on. So glad to see you. He's over on Instagram. So if you see me looking that way, that's who I'm talking to. All right, so let me look at some takeaways. Susan is saying going to primary lender for HELOC. That was her biggest takeaway. Yes, and if you're watching a replay of this, please drop hashtag replay in comments and let me know your biggest takeaways. I would love to know. Instagram, using HELOC with short-term loans. Yes, combine it with other things. And there's just so much creativity that you can use in, I always tell people, like, the kind of rentals I do, there's no creativity involved in the design element. Like, I want to do something, and then I want to do it again and again and again without having to make all the decisions all over again. So there's not a lot of design creativity, but there's a lot of creativity in the finance piece. Like, that's where I use all of my creative juices in how to do finance. And that's what I would advise you to do as well. All right, let me see any takeaways, and then I'm gonna And then I'm going to go and do any questions that you might have. Hey, Raza, by the way, if you can join the live over on Instagram, just type yes, and I might bring you on. I don't know where you are. Raza is usually at like construction sites and whatnot. So if you're available, let me know and I'll pull you into the Instagram live. All right. So before I start answering questions, yeah, drop your questions in comments. Before I start answering questions, I just want to mention, take a moment and mention we have an amazing program. It's 3 months and then continue on if you want to really work with us closely over the course of the next few years. 3 months gives you the foundation to do your first BRRRR deal, get your first property under contract. We don't take on a lot of people because I want to get to know everybody in the program, and you have plenty of access to myself and my husband Nidhi. And it's a really beautiful community. The people who come into our community are super generous and with their time and with their knowledge, and they are super smart and very kind people. So we're very picky about who we bring into our community because I want to work with the best people out there. But we have a coaching program, and it's like a boot. We keep it to a very select number, so it's a boutique coaching program. Just all you have to do is DM me anywhere on any channel on I guess on our Facebook page, Open Spaces Women. You can go and DM me there, or Instagram, Open Spaces Women, if you want to join. Also, you can go to Open Spaces Women / book a call to join. And you can book a call and talk to somebody from our team, and we can help you figure out if that's the right option for you. And if it's not, we're happy to point you to any other resource that might be better fit. All right, I am going to look at questions though. That's a lot of money in rotation. Yes, Simona says, so exciting. Yes, it is. Is this possible to do as a single person? This is such a good question. I'm going to tell you, the first property I bought was when I was single. I wanted to start investing in real estate. It was a while ago, but I bought a property when I was single. So yes, and we have a whole bunch of people in our program who are doing this as single women, single moms. Hope just got her first deal under contract. Carrie, who's also in our program, actually hit her first $1 million portfolio. She's a single mom with 2 little boys. You can do this as a single person. Please don't hold yourself back just because you don't fit that uh, investor persona. And single moms have a very special place in my heart because I was raised by a single mom and I saw her work hard every day. And I think if anybody deserves success in this world, it is single moms. So yes, you can. I'm getting teary-eyed talking about my mom. When you take out HELOC to invest in a new a Facebook user is saying, I cannot see the name where I am. I'm on a different app where I'm doing this live, and somebody's saying, I'm currently in the portfolio program. It's life changing. Absolutely recommended. Thank you so much. And I will find out who it is when I can go on Facebook and actually check it. Thank you. Okay, when you take out HELOC to invest in a new property, how do you structure cash flow to pay for both new property and HELOC? Yes, so that's a good question. When you borrow money for your um, deal, right? You want to make sure that you can pay that back once you're done with that deal. And once you pay it back, you don't need to worry about the cash flow because it's going to be paid back. So when it comes to cash flow, think about the exit strategy and then think about how that's going to impact the return of this amount. And then once you return it, there is no impact on the cash flow. Before that should go in your that should be a part of your holding costs and carrying costs. That should not be a part of your cash flow calculations. And that's another a whole different life. But yeah, definitely that's a really good question. You do need to make sure that either you can pay it back, or if you're gonna hold that loan um, to hold the next property and go forward, then make sure you account for the payments for the HELOCs from your cash flow. But yeah, if you're implementing the BRRRR strategy, then you will pay that HELOC back from the cash out. So you will not have, there will be no impact on the cash flow in that case. Okay, Raza says he can go live with me. Let me see if I can bring him on. So, guys, if you're watching me on this camera, you won't be able to see the live with Raza. But what I can do is I'll post the link for the IG live where I'm going to bring him on onto the Facebook group and the Facebook page when I'm done with it. All right, let's see. I just brought him on over on Instagram. Raza is absolutely amazing. And I don't know if he's still available because I was scrolling up and he said, "There you are. Hello. How are you, Raza?"
How are you, Polly?
I'm good. This is such a good surprise. Good to have you.
Yeah, I got an alert you went live. I'm like, I got to learn something new today.
Yeah, so we just have a couple of more minutes. I would love it if you could just share with everyone, what's the size of your portfolio right now?
So
I'm pretty sure he's crossed 1 million.
So we're at about 20 plus doors right now.
20 plus doors, you guys. This is no joke.
Yeah. And you were talking about Heloc, and we just actually bought 2 properties using Heloc money. So I used the 25% down payment for a short-term lender using Heloc money.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we just bought 2 right now. And
So-
it was from the same seller, so it was good.
Amazing. That's awesome. 20 plus doors. Raza, this was not planned. I have to bring you on and like actually plan it so we can have a nice conversation. We'll do it over also on Facebook so everybody can talk to you. But 20 plus doors, that is so amazing. If you just add up all the numbers, or maybe it's hard to do it live. What's the total portfolio size, asset base? I think it's definitely crossed 1 million. It might be over 2.
Yeah, it's more closer to like 1.3,
1.4 million. Oh my god! And how many years have you been at it? 1, 2?
Close to 2.
Close to 2 years. So completely unplanned, you guys. This is possible, and I just want you guys to know, like, this, don't hold yourself back. This is totally doable for people like you and me and Raza. Like, we're all meant to do this. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for joining this live.
Thank you so much, and thank you for guiding me.
Of course. Oh my god, it's been the most fun. So I saw Raza last year at the Bigger Pockets conference. Maybe I'll see you again this year.
Yeah, San Diego, right?
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you, Raza, for taking your time and joining. Empress says congratulations. And
Thank you so much. My regards to meeting.
sounds good. All right. Okay, so we'll see you all next time. I'll post again everywhere when we're going live again, and we'll find some other fun topic to discuss. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you, Raza.
Thanks.
Bye everyone.